Hi, Sierra. How are
Hello.
you?
How are you? Good to see
Good to see you
you.
too. I forgot, where are you calling
I'm
from?
in Los Angeles. How about you?
Bay Area. Close enough.
Love it. Love it. It's kind of a gloomy day here.
Same. Well, we 60s, so yeah, not bad.
I'm excited about our chat today.
Me too. Super excited. And just wanted to remind everybody too, if you have questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. We will try to do a little Q&A at the end and get to a few of the questions. So super thrilled you're here with us, Sierra. Everybody, Sierra Nielsen is a certified personal trainer as well as a sports nutritionist. She's also a Lifeforce member and friend, and has been in multiple media outlets. I know you've been on USA Today and Self Magazine, also worked with politicians, the Hollywood elite. And so we're super glad you're with us. I think more than anything, I love the work you've done for women
Thank you.
and really empowered them to realize their self-worth and live the best version of themselves. So love that you're with us today. There's
Thank
a
you so
lot
much.
on our, thank you. There's a lot on our platter for us to talk about and dive right in. But I think we all know that now longevity, lifespan, health span, these are words that people use a lot, but there's a lot of noise around it too. And I think sometimes it's hard to navigate what should we pay attention to and what is just really that just noise. So we will talk about that. We'll talk about biological age, some metrics. Before we do all that, I think it would be awesome if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing a little bit about your story, your journey. I know a lot of us will resonate with it,
Yeah.
and yeah, how your journey before Life Force and then since.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So, yeah, my background actually, I've been in health and wellness now for, gosh, I'm like, what year is it? 8 years. But before I was an entertainment executive, and I got into health and wellness because I lost my mom to stage 4 lymphoma. And that was just such a huge wake up call for me that I really need to take. Most of us, we take our health for granted. And it's like I grew up in Nebraska, so health wasn't really talked about that much. And it was just really my time to empower myself to learn about the body and to learn about wellness from physical, emotional, mental, everything. So that's how I kind of got into educating myself by becoming a trainer, becoming a nutritionist. And along the way, I just felt like there were so many moments where I felt like I wasn't really being heard when I would go into doctor's offices or ask questions. I felt like a lot of times I would just be dismissed. And I definitely went through a period after losing my mom. I started getting into functional medicine and diving deeper a couple years after she passed because I just was in complete burnout, wasn't doing well across the board. And I really felt like there was something else wrong. It wasn't just depression, it wasn't anxiety. And it really was like my body was kind of like in burnout crash mode. And I just hadn't really found many doctors that listened to me that would run the tests that I needed to see exactly where I was at and to also give me guidance on exactly what to do. So I was actually just looking for my clients because I knew about functional medicine and running more diagnostic holistic kind of stuff, and I was looking for a solution for people that were not in LA, and that's how I came across Lifeforce and signed up on my own just to see what it was like, and was overwhelmed and so happy with what this company stood for, what it offered, and also just the support I got. And I actually finally for the first time felt like I was being listened to. And also there were tests that Lifeforce ran for me that my other doctors even just refused to run because it was like, oh, those aren't important. It doesn't matter for women. When now here we are a year and a half, almost 2 years later, and I'm like, it did matter. And I'm so glad I had a team like I do at Lifeforce that actually listened to me.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so
Yeah,
sorry about your mom.
thank you.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge wake up call. I think we really do take our health for granted, or we don't even really know where to begin or understand what's actually important.
Yeah. And I think too, women notoriously get dismissed a little bit in
Yeah.
healthcare. And I think that many women end up putting other people ahead of their own, other people's needs ahead of their own. And it really sometimes takes things like this for women to just say, okay, I need help. I need to
Yeah.
figure out what's going on with me.
Yeah, I definitely realize that, especially when it comes to hormone health. And I'm sure you get this all the time because you're also an endocrinologist. But I had actually seen endocrinologists before as well. And what's so crazy to me is even when I saw an endocrinologist, they never mentioned like testosterone or male hormones.
Yeah.
And then once I started educating myself more, I'm like, okay, it's not just that these impact, let's say, body composition, which people talk about all the time, but so many other things like depression and anxiety. And those were all things I was feeling and experiencing. And even my gynecologist was like, I was on hormonal birth control, and she was like, you're fine. It doesn't really do anything. I mean, it did. It changed everything
Totally.
for me.
Yeah, I
So,
think, yeah. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would like to hear kind of your thoughts, because I think people are starting to wake up and we're starting to see a shift where people are realizing that, like, oh, I can claim agency over my own health. But I think they're also just really confused on what do I do? Who do I go for? Who do I go to? And who can I trust? And why also it's so important to have support on this journey versus trying to just navigate all the information online and figure it out yourself.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think you highlighted the exact problem, which is in traditional healthcare, there's such a gap in giving holistic recommendations, doing a deeper dive when people start to notice symptoms or get to a certain age. And I think people, because of that gap, they're seeking recommendations, they're seeking advice. So they go to Dr. Google, or they go to other people who may not really have the expertise that they claim they have. So it's so important that companies like Lifeforce, who are doing it in an evidence-based way, that people know and know that they can come to a trusted source who will be their experts, who will help them navigate all the noise that's online, or give a second opinion that's more validated and rooted in science. I think especially for hormone optimization, it is so critical that you go to someone who knows what they're doing. And there's so many nuances to hormone optimization and dosages that you need to go to someone who has experience and has studied it and has the expertise. This is, I get scared when sometimes people come to us from other places and they're on some crazy regimen, not feeling well, they're having side effects. And yeah, it's a big disservice to people to have to find their own way.
Yeah.
It's so important to partner with a trusted source,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's a huge conversation happening online right now. Lots of people talking about it that maybe shouldn't be talking about it. And I'm all for people sharing their journey and how it changed for them. But yeah, it's like finding an expert and medical doctors that can work, or clinicians that can help work with you. I think that that's really important versus just accepting what you hear online, because everybody is different. And I
Yeah.
think that that's what Lifeforce is, you know, that's the whole point of Lifeforce, is we're all individual.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take your individual data to figure out what to do for
Right.
your own personalized plan. What are you kind of seeing right now in terms of longevity? Because like that's obviously a very buzzy thing right now, and people are trying to. You have like the Brian Johnsons out there trying to live as long as they possibly can. So
Yeah.
like, what does that actually mean to you and look like?
Yeah, great question. So I think, for the most part, we realize we can't defy death, that we can't defy aging. So really, it's kind of embracing aging and aging in gracefully and living as long as we can, but not just the number of years, but the quality of those years, and being disease free as long as we can, functioning, feeling as optimally as we can throughout those years. I think to me, that is what longevity means. So
So
at Lifeforce,
yeah, you created Life Score,
yes.
which is a part of Lifeforce, which really speaks to that.
Mhm.
So talk a little bit about that, and talk a little about what that score is, and also what biological age is and why everyone's talking about that right now.
Yeah, so we developed the Life Score, which is an algorithm that takes in inputs and then generates a total score and then 3 subscores. As we get more and more data, people are wearing their Apple Watch that gives them data, their Oura Ring that gives them data, their blood pressure readings, their 40, 50 biomarkers. It gets harder and harder for clinicians to manually collate that data and then come up with personalized, effective recommendations. So the score kind of takes all of this data and is through an algorithm where we took all these risk factors and applied certain weightages to them in a quick, easy, really interpretable way, can tell the clinician and the member right away what areas look good, already optimal, versus what areas still there's room for improvement. And the 3 categories that we look at, one is quality of life. So how are people feeling and functioning today really predicts how they will feel and function years from now. So for example, a big study was done by the National Institute of Aging. They looked at 8,000 people, and people who rated like their physical scores in their 30s and 40s as low energy, low stamina, low endurance, were at much higher risk for cardiovascular disease in their 60s and 70s, much higher risk for dementia, higher risk for mortality. So we think it's so important to really get a good feeling and an assessment of how somebody is feeling and functioning now. So we ask about cognition, social engagement, life satisfaction, mood, sexual health, cognitive health, all of those things that go into that score. The second component is what we call the longevity risk, which is really looking at somebody's risk of developing one of the 5 top chronic conditions that will shorten someone's life: heart disease, metabolic dysfunction, malignancy, dementia, and then osteoporosis or fracture risk. And then lastly is the biological age. So that's the buzzy one. That's what everyone talks about.
I found out I was 20.
I know, yay. Definitely generates those bragging rights for sure. And that's exactly what we want. We want people's biological age to be younger than their chronological age. And that means that at a cellular level, they're aging a little bit slower than somebody whose biological age is older than the chronological age. And I think there's a lot of scores out there now, but really what sets us apart is that this score is really evidence-based. We took meta-analyses, we took data looking at health outcomes and attributing them to these risk factors. We also included quality of life intentionally because we know that is such a big part of how people are feeling, how their internal health is. It's a reflection of internal health. And to your point, it gets so dismissed in traditional healthcare. The minute you turn 40 or 50 and you complain of fatigue, it's like, oh yeah, well, you're supposed to feel tired at this age.
You're supposed to expect that that's how
right.
life is, not
right.
how it be.
Exactly. But I know you got a score recently. How did that go? I know your biological age is amazing.
It was really interesting. I actually think I took the questionnaire part of it when I was a little stressed. So it'd be interesting to go back because my quality of life was a little low at that point. But gosh, I have. So my quality of life was like 3. So we want to bump that up. My overall score was 73, which I look at that and I'm like, oh, I have so much work to do. But that's actually, I know, a lot better than a lot of people. But it was really, what was really great for me is because I constantly, especially I worry so much about those longevity risk factors. So seeing my cardiovascular, my dementia, osteoporosis, cancer, metabolic. And it was kind of a sigh of relief to see that they were a lot lower than I thought. And that's one of those things that, like, one of the biggest, most of the stuff I've worked out with my team so far, like my hormones have been optimized, which literally changed my life. And so the thing we're working on right now is my my cardiovascular risk and my cholesterol and my APOB. But if I were to look at those numbers as a normal person without a clinician there walking me through it and guiding me throughout the process, I would be constantly stressed because I'm, being able to hear, okay, well, you have genetic markers, so don't stress so much, but here's some things that we could do. Because years before I was like, oh, I just knew I had high numbers, and I was constantly stressed, and it made me even more stressed just thinking about it. But having the Lifeforce clinicians really help me through that has been helpful, and knowing that it's not as high as I thought is great.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, and now I have a path to try and work on all these things too.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think you're right. I think many people are initially it's a little unnerving or jarring to see these scores and to see, you know, your risk of cancer or your risk of dementia. But what we found is that it quickly turns into motivating people to be actionable. So whereas for years they probably knew they had high cholesterol, but now to see that their cardiovascular risk is this high, it's been amazing to see people kind of just get stimulated to act, and they're more vested. It resonates with them. They're able to be a little more focused and intentional about the recommendations and interventions that our clinicians are giving.
Yeah, and you also get to know if what you're working on and your plan is working, right, versus going to your doctor once a year running a blood test. So now, you know, there's a couple things that we're working on, and if something over 3 months we don't see any movement after, because it's, you know, I have a 3-month visit, then we switch things up. And I just you don't really get that with a lot of regular GPs, so that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah,
knowledge is power. That is so true. Yeah.
Knowledge is power. If you don't know, you can't act on it. And and you need somebody to help you understand what is modifiable, what is not modifiable. Is it, you know, what's more important right now? Is it that you incorporate more vegetables, or that we up your exercise, or, you know, whatever it is, it's important to have a trusted expert giving you that guidance. Otherwise it is super overwhelming, and there is so much misinformation out there that you can easily just get lost in all of the noise.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we've had any questions come through, but guys, if you do have questions, let us know. We're happy to answer those as well. Oh, we do have a question from Johnny. Can Lifeforce check for cellular inflammation, and can that inflammation cause you to age faster? I think we're frozen. Am I still here?
You're still here.
Are we back?
I think so.
Okay. Did you hear my question?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do check for inflammation, and having high degrees of inflammation affects a few different things: cardiovascular health, metabolic health, the biological age. So it's something that we think is super important to have tested, to provide recommendations, and then to track over time and make sure that comes down. Great. And inflammation, I think, is so underrated as a risk factor. So it's such a great question.
Inflammation is very interesting, because there's been a couple times that we've tested it where my inflammatory markers were higher, and I was able to look at, oh, you know what? I had just come back from vacation. I was a little stressed, or I wasn't taking some of my supplements that I'd forgotten. And we saw direct increases. So again, to be able to have someone walk you through that, oh, well, this is why, probably. Let's get back on track. Another question is, how do you consider or calculate the cancer risk?
Yeah, cancer risk. So again, there's modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable. So something non-modifiable is probably something like family history. If you had a first degree relative who had cancer, or if you yourself had cancer, we can't modify that. But the things that we can modify are things like inflammation. How's your diet? We know that certain foods carry a higher risk of cancer. We know that certain lifestyle habits, smoking, alcohol, have their own risk. We look at other biomarkers. So we know that even certain like prostate cancer, there is a biomarker for that we look at. So it's kind of a bunch of different variables that we look to make that assessment.
I've been asked this question several times. I think it might be a good time to clear it up, but can you upload your own blood work? And you can or you can't?
You
Oh,
can. Yep. Yeah, we this might have changed since you were last looking at
oh,
it, but
amazing.
yes, we can you can upload your old medical records or lab reports if one of our clinicians requests that, you know, if they want to see your historic levels of thyroid or anything else, we will yeah, definitely look at that and review it for you.
That's incredible. George is asking, when we get our blood work, how soon after are we able to meet with the physician to review? And it's actually, George, it's very quick. As soon as it happens, you'll get a notification that you can schedule your clinician visit, and I normally am on the phone with them within a week.
Yeah, exactly. For most states, we're within 7 to 10 days and that you could be seen. And it's, yeah, it's quick. And the good thing is our clinical team is awesome. They are really, they're passionate about it. They're so knowledgeable, really great experts in the field. So,
Yeah. Oh, and then us, obviously, like, how do you get your life score? You just go to mylifeforce.com/live, and you'll see the link right there. You'll be able to sign up.
yeah, just sign up and then you'll fill out a pretty extensive health questionnaire. You'll do your lab work. And once you become a member, we will generate a score, review it with you. So it's not just a number, but we'll actually give you actionable steps and the full interpretation, which is priceless.
Great. I don't know who DJ Lovett is, but of course, it's for everybody. She asked, is it helpful for someone who has just crossed the 70s threshold?
Yes.
100%. It is never too late to take charge of your health.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. We've got 90-year-olds, so
Yeah, I love that.
70 is so
Yeah.
young. It's our perspective has changed, right? It's like,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that brings up a really good point, because so much of this conversation has been about aging and longevity, and anti-aging is also a huge conversation. There's such a stigma around it, so many messages in the media about it. So in your mind, how should we be thinking about aging?
Yeah, I personally, I'm not a big fan of the word anti-aging. I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, it just has a different connotation. I think that we should embrace aging. I think we should be smart about it, though. I don't think it should be, we should have the same fate as our parents or grandparents. I think it's very reasonable to expect to live very healthily in your peak performance through your 70s and 80s and beyond. But I do think you need to be proactive. I think it's important to look under the hood regularly, to partner with experts who know what they're doing and can help you keep moving the dial on what needs to be improved. As we age, our bodies keep changing. So it's important that we have good guidance and know what to change when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can speak from experience. I constantly got the messages, just, wait till after you're 30 and see how you feel. And I'm almost 40, and I honestly feel better than I ever did in my 20s or early 30s. And it was all because I took those steps, not only working with a company like Lifeforce, but I feel like everyone's looking for a quick fix out there, and all the trendy new diets or fads. But the majority of us, it's like, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? How socially, emotionally, mentally, like those most important pillars, which is also what I love that Lifeforce really focuses on too, and is there to support you with. So yeah, it's I agree with you. I hate the word anti-aging, because I think aging is a beautiful thing, and you gain so much with aging, but how can we continue to feel well and feel our strongest as we get older? I think that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but also know that you shouldn't be dismissed. That there are, yeah, if you don't feel well or you're noticing something, there's probably some root cause to that. And it's good to investigate and get the data and really understand what's happening internally.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, yeah. Yes, we'll be sharing a full recap after this, so you guys don't worry if you missed anything. But if you have any last questions, let us know.
Yeah. I'm so happy you were with us, Sierra, and I really always appreciate talking to you and getting your great input and perspective. So yeah, everybody, if you are interested in Lifeforce, definitely go to mylifeforce.com/live, learn more about the Life Score, learn about what Lifeforce has to offer, our clinical team, the biomarkers that we check. It's pretty amazing, and I think fills a big gap in healthcare right now. So
100%.
cool. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Well,
all so
thanks
much.
everyone for joining.
Okay,
Take
bye
care.
everyone.